The Himba people of Namibia, the Xhosa people of South Africa, and the Shona people of Zimbabwe. These are the people. These are our people.
Why did they forget us the Tswanas in that one?
You are not Nguni.
I feel so jealous on that song that they just included the Ngunis, you know.
May is Africa Month, and one person who has really embodied the spirit of Africa through her music, through her time, through her cultural and creative expressions is Thandiswa Mazwai. The king herself, King Ta, joins us on the line to speak about how she expresses herself and how she really has embodied the spirit of Africa through her journey and her music. King Ta, Thandiswa Mazwai, thank you so much for joining us this morning on The Move.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, you own us a Botswana song, eh?
Okay, I'm going to need to. I'm going to have to now.
Yeah, because
I'm under pressure.
I've been to so many of these concerts, and you just see the Ngunis on fire, and you're like,
yes.
Botswana retang.
Oh, you know what? I feel you. Okay.
Well, it's okay for me because my mother is a beautiful Xhosa woman, and so I can connect to the Abanguni through this particular song. But let's speak about that. You are one of Africa's most respected artists, and during this month, the month of May, is a month that's become quite significant to you through your journey, not just through your music, but I mean your latest album Sankofa was released during the month of May, and Sunday being Africa Month, it's a perfect time to speak to you, Thandiswa Mazwai, someone who embodies the spirit of this continent so well.
Yes, I mean, I grew up in a Pan-Africanist home. I was raised on these principles of Ubuntu, and so my music really centers a lot of these teachings, you know, which I think are very, very important to every African child to learn about, you know, Yindoni Nhlonipho, and some of the many teachings that come from our elders, you know. So I try to embed a lot of those things into my music.
You know, in a world where music is about meshing our interculturalness, but also our global being, it's getting more rare. In fact, there's two parts of it, because now we're becoming a global world, but it seems like African artists are moving even closer to who they are and expressing themselves through those cultural expressions. In your song, Nizalwa Ngubani, which directly translates to who births you, tell us about why it's important to really understand the history, your culture, your tradition, even in your expression of art.
I think for me, it just kind of became a way in which I could show my uniqueness to the world, you know, because if I was going to travel anywhere else in the world and try to mimic what they were doing, I couldn't stand out. And it also was about reclaiming a lot of my identity, reclaiming some of the old stories, you know. May, we also just did Ancestor Day, I think it was on the 8th of May, which really talks about this idea of reclaiming your stories, reclaiming, you know, your legacy. Reclaiming your legacy. So I really try to do that through my music, because that's what makes me unique to the world. This is what makes me special in the world, is when I celebrate my Xhosa-ness, my Nguniness, my Africanness. And then, of course, I do integrate other things that I learn from other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But the work really centers this place. It centers where I am, where I've grown up, you know, as an African child.
I mean, your Pan-Africanism really shouts out in your Sankofa album, not just through its, lyrical content, but also your musical choices. In fact, you're recording it in Dakar, but also getting some expertise from musicians in New York. Your friend Michelle Ndigachelo was part of the production of this. And it seems like that Pan-Africanism is something that's very close to your heart, that you see the nuances of not just us being, just Africans on the continent, but you actually see the framework from a world viewpoint. that particular reference point, what inspired it in Sankofa? And is it because you had these friendships that you wanted to explore in a deeper way on an album? Or is it because it's always been something in your back of your mind to actually explore that African context?
It's both things. You're correct. I wanted to engage my friendships first and foremost, because when you're making music, it's about love, and you want to work with people that you truly admire and people that you think admire you, and you can bring out the best in one another. So I really wanted to work with Moshatama and Nduduzo Makhathini. They were my two major producers on the album. But I was also doing all the writing with a young Zimbabwean kid on the bass called Dendai Shoko, But also I had always wanted to record music all over the African continent, My manager, who passed away just after COVID, used to live in Mali, and he used to manage Utatu Salif Keita as well as managing me. So we had always had this plan of going to West Africa, and West Africa had always been one of my favorite places in the world. Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso. I had been to these countries and fallen completely in love with the sound. Mm-hmm. But the Pan-Africanist ideal was something that I had been raised with, and always in my work, I think I spoke of it. But on this album, I really wanted to explore sonically what that would mean. What would it mean for us to integrate those worlds, to put those worlds together? So I really enjoyed going to Senegal and working with the musicians over there to bring them Ngoni and what else did they have? All these traditional instruments that they brought in. And also sampling from South African archival recordings of umhope and, all these traditional Xhosa instruments like uati, but then also using this kind of technology that Mshandeng Cello kind of brought onto the album. So for me, that really created quite a beautiful conversation about the Pan-Africanist conversation, but also the conversation about the diaspora, and how we can forge links towards healing and towards like a unified strength.
I love that.
For all of us.
We're weaving in between your latest work and your history, because I think it all comes together to encompass the way in which you've, really put together an identity of the continent in your own identity as an artist. And you were speaking about, Africa Day, Ancestors Day being recently. And your ancestors aren't just in your own lineage, but those who you look from and you've looked to in your past. We'll come to that, because you have great musical ancestors that you continue to really put at the forefront of your inspirations, music, and you pay homage to quite a lot. We're chatting to Thandiswa Mazwai, that's King Ta herself, at 21 minutes past 11 Central Africa time. We'll continue chatting to her after this break.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
All right, we're speaking to Thandiswa Mazwai, described in The Guardian as South Africa's finest female contemporary singer. But very recently, she was trending on that NPR performance, and Africans were super happy about that one. But she has been an artist that has transcended many genre forms, but also has been very genre bending in how she's confronted not being just boxed in one ideal and one conceptualization, but also she's harvested a template in which she does not walk alone in the music, but there's a context in which many who have been part of this African Renaissance theme of our musical expression here in South Africa on the continent is something that she is so super super proud of. And let's speak about that, because I think that context is so important. The fact that you've always been leveraging especially the female voice of those who come before you, Thandiswa. I remember very, very young as a journalist, and just before Busi Mhlongo passed away, there was her final launch of her final album, and you were in the mix, and you had this wonderful performance with her. And it seemed like the likes of Mary Makeba, who you've also met and you've had a close relationship, the likes of Busi Mhlongo, are spirits that kind of you keep recalling back into your musical expression. Why is that so?
Well, I mean, first of all, what an incredible blessing to have had these legends in my life, you know, as a young artist, to mentor me and to kind of talk life into the rest of my career, you know, what would happen in my career. They taught me so much that there's almost no way that I can do what I do without paying homage to them over and over and over again. And it's true, you know, that there is great. There's a lot to be thankful for in the fact that not only have I been able to get the teachings from Mambere Makeba about Pan-Africanism, or from Busi Mhlongo about this deep pride in who you are, but that I was also able to encounter them physically, you know, to wash their feet, to drink their tea, to have conversations with them, to hold their hand, to maybe help them go up a pair of stairs, because many of them were a lot older than me, you know.
Sure.
So that blessing for me is something that I can never, ever, ever, you know, kind of live down. Or, you know, so I continue their legacy. I continue the sound. I continue the teachings of being a proud Pan-Africanist and being a strong woman, you know, who's also gracious, who's also has this incredible grace about her. So this is still something that I hope that I can one day attain, the kind of grace that Mam Mira Makeba had, or the power that Mam Busi Mhlongo had, their ability to create change, you know, their ability to use their music for prayers, for healing. So, yeah, you know, I'm a student in that school, you know, and I think that my duty is to continue the legacy of what they've begun.
Thandiswa, speaking about legacy, you have this incredible ability through who you are, through your music and through your expression, to really showcase what legacy looks like, even from an audience point of view. I've been to a few of your concerts, and when you go to a Thandiswa concert or a place where she performs, you'll find a 60-year-old there singing along, but you'll also find a Gen Zer, someone maybe in her 20s right now or in their 20s right now, also, you know, understanding the context, also singing along, also dancing along. And those are generations of people who have connected and are centered by one thing. How do you do that? How do you bring together generations of people to understand one cultural expression?
This is something I can never explain. I don't know how it happened, but I think it began with the fact that Mamira Makeba accepted me into this world, and that Brahu Masigela accepted me, you know, that they would call out my name, that it allowed an older generation to view me in a different way. And then my generation obviously grew up with me, and then they began to teach their children my music. So now I have 16-year-olds, 19-year-olds who listen to my music. But I also, you're right, I also have people that are older than me who somehow, you know, when they come to me, they tell me that there's something about me that is nostalgic. It reminds them of a certain time. It reminds them of Sophia Town, of Mama Mira Makeba. And I think it's because of the fact that I do pay homage to them, so much. But yeah, I have no idea what has happened, because, the audience comes almost to be a part of the show. They don't come as people who look at the show. They don't watch the show. They're part of the performance, they sing along, they dance, they speak, they insist on their presence in the room. And I really love that. I love the fact that, it has become a communal celebration when we go on the stage. It's not so much about the excellence of some people on the stage, but the fact that the community has come together to celebrate, to weep, to be joyful, whatever it is, to express their rage. So I'm really thankful to the audiences for having found that little niche, that place where we could, access the magic together.
All right, we have to wrap it off, but I have to give you some props here because you've always been cool. You've always had a wonderful fashion aesthetic, but on Sankofa, you really took it to the next level. What was that fashion all about in terms of incorporating those wonderful outfit pieces in all your performances that integrated different art pieces from different parts of the continent through your travels, but also you had real intention in how you were representing King Ta. I think for the first time, we now know who King Ta is.
I think so. I think that's really what we were playing at. We were playing at this idea of King Ta, this kind of grand identity, and, sometimes kind of playing into some of the mythology that exists around this King Ta personality. So, we just kind of had fun with fashion, with, a lot of great African aesthetics, bringing in kentes, bringing in a lot of different fabrics from Ghana, from West Africa, from East Africa, kind of using all of those as references. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, King Ta, for having a very pensive conversation with us and joining us for just really catching up with you and just delving in some of your musical directions and also your creative choices. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That is the incredible Thandiswa Mazwai, King Ta, speaking about Africa in her music and how we can all connect. This one comes from one of her latest album, Sankofa, and it's titled Sabela. We'll hear a little bit more of that after our news break. It's 11:31 Central Africa time. Let's get our latest sports news.